Right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Once again, we are back to Age of Sigmar, and once again, I am joined by Mr. Grant Fraser. Grant, thank you very much for joining me again.
Thank you for having me again. I seem to be the house guest that won't leave at this point.
Wow, how much has changed since last month?
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy month. Even the past just week has been pretty crazy.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, the new Tzeentch and Caradhran Overlords book dropped, which we did a review of. There was some tasty stuff in there.
Oh yes, one maybe more so than the others, but there's definitely interesting things in both books. I think Kale's gonna maybe take a little bit longer to figure out. Yeah. But I still think there's something in there good.
Absolutely. So that come out. So obviously we're still waiting for the FAQ for them to come out because it's normally 2 to 3 weeks after. I don't think massive amounts of stuff's going to change. One of the favourite things for me that's actually floating about, I think we missed it in the review. One of the relics just lets you bring an endless spell.
Yeah, spell in a bottle.
Yeah,
it's definitely pretty fun.
Yeah,
there's a lot of talk of using the likes of the Skaven one, because also it restricts movement, so it holds the enemy back, and you can shoot them more and stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. On top of that, there was also an announcement for, I think we might have covered it in the last podcast, but there was a mention of Everchosen versus Bone Reapers campaign book, and literally moments ago, Games Workshop have just put up that is actually available to pre-order next week.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what they're going to do. I mean, there's 2 very new battle tomes, and getting a campaign book right away. So I just don't know what sort of effect that's going to have, because is it going to be a pure campaign book, or are we going to have the likes of the Forbidden Power, which brought us more allegiances to use them in? So that's going to be interesting to see when that drops.
Yeah, it's a shame that me and Lucy ended up doing 2 battle reports with them, and then drew them against each other in the little 8 army tournament that we're running.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to probably do something along with this to review it as well. So there's going to be lots of Bone Reapers and lots of slaves appearing on the channel.
It's also the direction they're pushing the narrative just now, it seems to be. I mean, Order's taking a bit of a backseat, I think, at the moment, to Chaos versus the Bone Reapers, which is fine. I mean, Chaos hasn't had a big push in a while now in the narrative, so...
Nah, not since I think first edition came out.
Yeah, so it's good to see them becoming the big bad again. Because at the end of the day, Nagash he's not really that much of a bad guy.
Really?
He's not that bad. He just he just wants everyone to get along, and that means they all have to be dead and underneath his control. But it's there's an admirable goal in there somewhere. He's just going about it the wrong way.
What you're saying is he's like Thanos?
Maybe a little bit like Thanos, but Thanos made some good points. I mean...
yeah, and not to put doom and gloom on this episode, but of course the Doomsday clock did get moved to 100 seconds away from Doomsday.
It did
this week, so...
I am wondering if Iron Maiden's going to record a new song.
Yeah, 100 seconds to midnight.
Yeah, I don't think it's got quite the same ring to it.
No, not at all. Of course, on top of all of this, we've also had the LVO previews. Before we move on to them, though, the Ogre guy for Beastgrave is also up for pre-order next week, along with that campaign book.
I think the Nurgle Warband's up as well, is it?
No.
Is it not up next week?
The Nurgle Warband was just previewed at the LVO. So we know what the next one is, but we don't know when yet. But you know what? I think that Ogre is really, really cool, and it's nice that people are going to have an alternate model to use as a hunter. Because
no, they are both coming out next week.
What?
I just looked at the page. Yeah, the False Sorcerer of Nurgle is coming to Beastgrave.
All right, fair enough.
So they're putting them both out next week.
Well, they kept that quiet, didn't they? But
I like the Blight Kings. The sculpt's really nice. The Sorcerer's pretty creepy as well.
The little Nurgling dog thing on his base. Ian sent me a message, right? Zoomed right in on that. And he put hands down best model right there.
I don't know. He's no sassy Nurgling.
No. Do you know what? I have just built a Plague Marine champion today, and it's got Sassy Nurgling on. I was like, yes. Oh. Yes. Ian, of course, has a Sassy Nurgling on the back of his Warlord Titan piloting it.
Excellent.
But yes, so they're obviously up for pre-order next week as well, which is great. However,
yes,
the big news, the biggest news that everybody has been waiting for, Seraphon.
Yes, definitely.
Seraphon are finally getting a proper battle tome. Because
they were the first battle tome, I think, were they not? Or there were definitely one of them.
Oh, God, yeah. They didn't even have allegiance abilities or spells or anything in there. No. Like, that's how old... That was, like, the first version of a battle tome for AOS 1.
Yeah, it was like that and Fire Slayers. And maybe Stormcast and Korn must have been the first few, because the Fire Slayers one's pretty terrible as well, the old one. Also not the new one.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then there was the Ever Chosen one as well.
Yeah, and there's also the Dreadhold book. Lest we forget, they gave a scenery piece a battle tome.
Yeah, and now they don't even sell it anymore. And then they're doing a whole campaign about Bone Reapers assaulting the Varan Keep.
And like, they could re-release it for that. I mean, it's
I
not.
I hope they do, because I missed out on it.
It is a very nice piece of kit.
It's just you need so much, and it's all so expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, the temple does it not just remind you of Stargate?
It does, and I'm a huge Stargate nerd. So I was, I really like the Seraphon anyway. Like, I think that's of the reveals, that's actually the one I am genuinely most excited for is the Seraphon book.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see what they do with the lore, because obviously in the first book they were effectively celestial demons, and they were the memories of the Slam. But they seem to have kind of changed that lore as AOS has evolved. I think
gone like, yeah, we don't kind of like that now.
So I want to see. I'm really excited to get the book and have a read of the lore. I mean, I don't think I'll be running Seraphon anytime soon. It's again one of the armies I've looked at a number of times because who doesn't like dinosaurs? So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. And I think the trade piece looks good. I'm a bit sad there's no major resculpts coming of like the Saurus warriors.
You would think the Slan especially would probably get. They could do so much with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a key piece to the army, and he's a very old, not overly pleasant model.
And if you've got a metal one, God help you trying to put that on one of them clear flying stems.
Yeah, it's just not happening.
No. So it's a shame that that's not happening. I mean, a lot of their models are old. Like, I don't think
they're in a weird place where a lot of the infantry doesn't look good, but the big dinosaurs all look really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I also hope Saurus get 2 wounds. Saurus need to go up to 2 wounds.
Oh yeah,
like I mean that has to happen.
I mean they did it to Fire Slayers. Like, why can't?
Yeah.
Do you know?
I would be amazed if Saurus don't.
Even
go.
If they put the points up, like they did with Fire Slayers. The fact that they then had 2 wounds just made them so...
Temple Guard on 2 wounds will be amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And of course, we'll probably get an all-dinosaur army, since we seem to get an all-monster army.
Like a mounted behemoth style.
Yeah, like your Gristlegore, you can take them as battle line. Like, I'm sure there's going to be a way to take like Bastillodons as battle line. And that's going to be a very hard army not to collect. Just Carnosaurs and Bastillodons and Stegodons. Yeah, that would be
that would look so cool, actually.
It would.
On the subject of that, we're going to be covering... there's been 3 events, really, in the last sort of 2 to 3 weeks. How many people ran, like, 6 Stonehorns at these lists, at these events, do you think?
There's at least one at every event.
Yeah.
There was 1 or 2 at Tempest that I was at. There's definitely 1. And there's definitely 1 at CanCon.
It's definitely a very, very cool theme.
It's a good, strong list. That's the thing, because as was pointed out to me, I mean, if you wound them and you kind of pull them out of combat a bit, they can still sneak an objective late game, and it counts as 10 models.
Yeah.
When everyone else has got like small minimum squads trying to cling on to objectives, you just throw a Stonehorn on.
Yep. Oh, look, I've got 10 models there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did that before in a game I played against Gary at Battle Bunker. I pulled that on him. It was like, oh, right, so you've got like, I think you had like 8 grots or 8 squigs on it. It was just like, cool, I'm going to retreat from you, but stay within 3 of the objectives so that, oh, look, you can't fight me, but I've got control of the objective.
Yeah, it's great. It gave them what they needed to make the Stonehorns and that really viable for an all. It makes Beast. Thing is, though, I think it's made Beastclaw better than Gutbusters again.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a shame. I was hoping Gutbusters would get something, but it seems after all the dust is settled, it's Beastclaw builds are seemingly the way it's going.
It's because there's so many ways that you can actually buff the Stonehorns. Like if you take that, I can't remember the name of the tribe, but like you can get like
Boulderhead.
Yeah, you can get like +2, like with spells and stuff. You can get like +2 and 3 damage to the horns, and like +2 and 3 to hit through various command traits and relics. And then every hero gets a mount trait, and it's just like it's brutal. It
is. It's really strong.
But it's obviously, does the 5-up feel no pain counteract the half-all damage? I think it's better being this way than the way it was. Because there's so many arguments over the half damage thing.
Yeah. I don't know if it's better or worse for the person playing as the Beastclaw, but I definitely feel it's a cleaner system to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even 3 damage, you're ignoring 1 in 3. You were half in 3 down to 2. So
yeah.
I think, you know, it swings and roundabouts. It depends on your dice rolling.
It does.
It does. So, yeah, I like it. And I still like, you know, good old Gutbusters. There'll be a game coming out on the channel next week where I take a unit of 12 Gluttons and 12 Iron Guts. Lucy runs 90 Dryads.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fat eating a lot of wood.
Yes. And do you know what? It was such a good game as well. It's one of the games for the 8 Army Knockout tournament that we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, it was brutal on both accounts. So brutal.
Yeah. It was a very good Sylvaneth list at Tempest that I'll speak about as well.
If it's the one I think it is.
It is the one you think it is. I can almost guarantee it's the one you think it is.
So, of course, the other thing that everyone's talking about, and I'm very hitty-missy on this, mind.
Mm-hmm.
I like some things, I don't like some of the others, is the new Lumineth Realm Lords.
Yeah.
Now, I like Lumineth because it's like illumination, it's light. Of course, they are from, is it Heich?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, of course, Teclis's second attempt at an elven race.
Yeah, because the Deepkin were, of course, the failed experiments.
Yeah. Now, looking at the actual infantrymen with the plumes, the shields, and the spears, they, to me, just say High Elf Spearmen.
Yeah.
That's all they are. It's basically, to me, it looks like a new sculpt of High Elf Spearmen. That's what it is to me.
Yeah. You're not going to get any argument from me. I actually don't really like this miniature line at all.
Nothing, for me, I'm not drawn to them. It's just like, oh, High Elf Spearmen, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big elf fan. I mean, that's the first thing I guess I should probably preface it with, as I'm currently painting up dwarves. There's very few of the elves I like. I like the Snake Ladies from Daughters of Cain.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of the Deepkin, but I like the infantry, and they're not very good. So you don't really seem to see them. And I don't like the eels. So generally, elves are more of a miss than a hit for me.
Mm-hmm.
But even the response you see online has been very mixed for this release.
But again, part of that might be the colour palette, because obviously they painted up to be very light. Where look at when the Bone Reapers dropped, people were like, meh, Tomb Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Tomb Kings smashed with Necrons.
Yep.
And a lot of people even said, we think it's the palette that GW used. And do you know what? After, helping Lucy paint some of hers up, they are nice models.
Yeah, I like the models. I like them. I did like them from the start. But there was a lot of people, especially like the Mortec Guard smiling faces. I really like the smiling faces of the Mortec Guard. I think it makes them quite creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. But nothing on these Spearmen screams to me like, this is cool. The leader of the squad looks nice. He's got a very nice pose and he's got a bit more detail on him and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I don't look at it and go, I want to run out and buy that.
Yeah, there's nothing in the model range that makes you go, ooh, I'm excited. I mean, I'm sure we'll get bolt throwers and stuff in time, like when the reveals come out, and I'll probably like that a bit more, but it's not going to be an army I collect. It was never something that was even really on my radar in general.
No.
For someone to go down, and I'm really not liking the techless model.
We'll get to that in a few moments, but the Horsemen, now I painted up a lot of high elves for fantasy for my friend Sean. I painted up well over 100 infantry, and I think I painted about 20 horses. And again, looking at these, the only thing I see is the helmets have got a little bit more embroidery on them. The plumes are a little bit more detailed.
Mm-hmm. Which is just, again, the health models were fairly old.
Yeah, it's just a case of it.
Printing's got a lot better, so it just feels like a high elf update. Although, if you look through the legs of some of the horses, they really don't look naturally posed at all. There's some legs that are quite straight, and it just looks really odd. Once you notice it, you can't really unsee it. So
yeah, on the preview,
if anyone now goes back and looks at them and doesn't like the models because they hadn't noticed that before, but
I'm looking at the preview picture now on the website, and the center one, his right leg, and then the right hand horse, his left and right legs.
Those are the ones that you just
Oh, the two. It's like when you've got a double jointed elbow and you straighten it and it goes past the straight point.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it feels when I look.
And they put them both right in the front.
Yeah, I know. Techless.
Well, before we get to techless, there's the one model that I absolutely love.
See, I'm exactly the same. I do love this model. Now, I think
from a sculpting perspective, it's stunning what they've done. Like, yes, you can see how it all connects together, but the way the armor and the robes are, the armor is hollow.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's attached to the robes, and you can sit there and work out how it's all attached. And also, it'd be great to see the actual sprue, but when you see it painted up like that, it's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's an old elf character, but again, wasn't a fantasy player really. I came in right at the end of 8th and just kind of played ogres and didn't really know anything else about the game.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but I'm sure when I was in
Elfarion.
Yes, Justin was telling me he used to ride a griffin, and then he was battling Archeon or something, and he got blinded. So then his new model basically had a blindfold on.
Okay, right.
But then they basically retconned that and went, nope, didn't happen. Don't get me, like, even the helmet on this model is absolutely out of this world.
Yeah.
Like, and when you look at, as you're looking at the picture, if you look on the left-hand side, like, that leg isn't attached to the cloak and stuff like the other one is.
Yeah, that's obviously part of the base.
Yeah. And the way that they've very, very carefully thought about the smallest places to touch this on. I mean, I'd be terrified to paint this. Like, I've got fat fingers, and
I mean, there's going to be some stunning versions of this.
Yeah,
come out.
Absolutely. You know what? If he had like arms and stuff, I absolutely would have used this as an Archon. He's just, it's stunning. It's a beautiful, beautiful model.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the star of the range. I can't imagine, even if what we haven't seen yet, I can't imagine any of that.
No.
Topping it.
Nah, not at all. And especially pure techless.
Yeah. I can see what they were trying to do with it.
Right, let's cut off the Griffin for the minute.
Yep.
And look at just techless.
And his wizened old man face.
The model's not bad. It's nice that he got updated, don't get me wrong. Right? But I felt, for me, if they'd had that model with the cloak a little bit more flowing, maybe some jumping off a tree branch or something, right? On a 40 or 50 mil base.
Yeah.
That would have been nice.
Or like a Celston Prime style deal where he's just a normal size guy but surrounded by swirling magics.
Yes. That would have been very nice. And then have this creature as a separate unit.
Yeah. But that's not.
But it's like the way it's presented is, here's this creature, a griffin or whatever it is, with obviously the elven head.
Yep.
And Teclis is just flying next to its wing.
Yeah, it looks like a bad photo. When I first saw it, I thought it's like a bad Photoshop. And
honestly, the way Teclis is and the angle it's taken at, it looks like a Photoshop. It really does.
When you see the 360 spin and you see what Teclis is being held on by, there's going to be so many snapped Teclises.
Yeah.
It's not a model that's going to be transportable all that well.
The thing that I wonder, right, is how is the community in general going to react to this, right? Are people going to go, wow, brilliant, let's go out and buy everything? And how many people are going to jump on this army?
I think there's a lot of old... They've obviously tried to cater to the old high elf fans.
Yeah.
Potentially to the detriment of the people that aren't a big fantasy fan. Because they are, as you say, just an update. Look, so far, like, more or less an update of the high elf line. For me, that's not what I want from Age of Sigmar. I want stuff to be a bit more different.
Like when they did the Daughters of Cain, yes, they pulled the Witches and the Sisters of Slaughter and whatever was on the, everything that's on the Cauldron over. Yes. But you got the Harpies, you got the Snakes, and you got Marathi.
Yeah.
Which was a very, very nice addition. Plus, I don't think the Witch Elves were that old a model.
I don't think so, no.
Because I mean, the £35 for 10, which is like, that's the pricing of Space Marines and stuff now.
Yeah, yeah. They were always one of the more expensive armies. I think that's why we haven't seen them dominate the meta as much as they could do before we came on air. We were discussing how they haven't really been touched by FAQs to any meaningful extent. They're still a great army to play and pick up and do well with the events.
Monetarily, they're just so expensive.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
I mean, most competitive lists have probably got, 90 Witch Elves?
I've seen a lot of folk moving to Sisters of Slaughter, but that's the same kit, isn't it? It's the same box that does both. So yeah, you're really looking at, 9 of those boxes.
That's 315 quid.
Yeah.
Before you've even then bought 2 cauldrons.
Marathi.
And Marathi.
Yeah. I think it's just one cauldron now. A lot of the lists are running with Marathi. So we saved you a bit of money there, but yeah, you're looking at £400 easy to put that together.
Absolutely. So I don't know. I think it's a very hit and miss army for me. Like I said, I love the hollow armor, but the rest of it, I just look at and think it's just high elves. I've got no interest. Yeah,
that's where it's falling for me. I mean, I wasn't one of the people overly hyped for it to begin with, so which meant I had no expectations, but it meant it was going to have to wow me, and it's not really done anything. Mm-hmm. It exists. It's there. People will buy it. I'm sure people will. I'm sure it'll do well as a release. But the general opinion that I've seen online on that is very divided. There is a love it, hate it situation going on with them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, especially Teclis. I mean, even if you look at the sculpt of the Griffin, it's just a Taurolon.
Yeah, I was definitely getting the Taurolon vibe. When you look closer, you can see they have sculpted more onto it, but there's a very strong Taurolon theme to it, which is fair enough because they're both, good order creatures. So it's nice to have some sort of symmetry, I guess. But...
Just the positioning of the wings and stuff like. I mean, feel free to disagree with me here, but do you not feel that all of the hero models or the big mounted units and things like that, because things are now designed in CAD rather than physically sculpting them, that people just use a base template and everything looks very similar. Like, this looks very similar to the Tauralon. Arch Cavalos, the Liege Cavalos from the Bone Reapers looks incredibly like Vander's Hammerhand.
Yes, although I think that's intentional. I think that was an intentional, sure, because I think they mentioned like almost a fallen Stormcast hero at one point.
Right.
And that was maybe in the previews or something, but that was the vibe I got from the Cavalos anyway, it was designed as a parallel to the Vandus model. Same with the new Chaos guy.
Oh, yes, on the Kakadros or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Fair point. But
I know what you mean about the big ones. Like, yeah, he's very Toleron-esque. He's posed the same way. And if you go back, that's kind of like what the Griffin was posed like as well.
Yeah. But like even the heroes, like most of the heroes, if you look at the 40k ones as well, they look so similar to like everything else.
Yeah. It is. I mean, CAD's great for what it is, but I do think I agree. You are missing some of the charm of the hand sculpted. Models that we used to have.
Definitely. Anyway, that is enough about the previews and stuff. Obviously, there's going to be quite a few things coming out over probably 2 to 3 months. I suspect these will probably drop in March.
Yeah. Is there anything rumored for February just now?
No, the next site you can wait on for 40k is the next thing, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if it's late February, early March, because I know.
Or might get the Seraphon, and then they'll launch into.
Yeah, because the Daughters, I think Daughters came out 2 years ago.
Deepkin.
And Deepkin did, because Deepkin were previewed at the LVO 2 years ago, and then they came out, I think, about the May. And the Daughters came out in the June, because they previewed them at Adepticon.
Okay, yeah.
Or the other way around. But yeah. Event-wise, though, not only is the LVO in full swing, and as of recording this, we're currently down to the last 8 players. You've been to an event, Grant, and of course it's also been CanCon and the Warhammer World GT. Yeah,
it's been obviously the event I was at was last week, but this weekend has been a ridiculous weekend for Age of Sigmar. There was also the Norwegian Masters this weekend as well. I was having a look at. I've not checked who's won that yet, but yeah, it's been a pretty full-on couple of weeks for Age of Sigmar.
But interesting enough, right, the LVO is using the old Disciples of Tzeentch and Kharadron Overlord rules.
Yeah.
Despite the other events all using the new ones.
Yep. It's there is, I think now more than ever, potentially after this weekend, there is an argument to say maybe we should wait for FAQs before we let in these new books.
Yeah.
But obviously at the same time, people want to play with their new models, and it's a tricky one. It's definitely a tricky one to balance. But yeah, looking at the results and that for this weekend, I think there's definitely a good, solid argument to be made for maybe we need the FAQs.
Before they're allowed it, like
before we put
events.
them into competitive play, yeah.
Yeah. So at the LVO, for example, we've got Slaanesh in first place, Bone Reapers in second, Tzeentch in third, Skaven in fourth, Daughters in fifth, Fireslayers in sixth, Daughters in seventh, and Stormcast in eighth. Now, I don't know what's been ran in each of these lists, but I know that one of the Bone Reapers players is running Archon, and not
Archon.
Archon. I've got Archon on the brain because I'm still on painting me Varungard. Archon the Black and Catacross in the same list.
Yeah. And when I go through my wee Tempest rundown, I did play against a list with Catacross and Archon in it.
Good.
So
good.
yeah,
well, you can tell me how that works, and I'll not tell Lucy.
There is actually an interesting list I think Lucy would enjoy from the CanCon finishings.
Fair enough. So obviously we know that those are the top 8 at the moment. With Vegas, of course, being probably I think 8 hours behind us. They'll have just started at the point that we're recording this. So by the time you guys are listening, it's possibly already been decided who the winner is. Would you care to bet, bearing in mind that it's a seeded game, so 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, and so on?
I think from what I've seen, the daughters list is doing particularly well. I think people are kind of forgetting about daughters. I think with all the talk of all the scary new armies like Bone Reapers and that, people are maybe not preparing for what daughters can do. So I would say them, and I'm gonna say Fire Slayers just because I'm painting them just now.
Fair enough. So, of course, good luck to everybody running through the LVO currently, and we'll hopefully see some interesting lists off the back of that. So, let's go back in time a little bit, Grant. Why don't you tell us about the event that you went to?
Yeah, so last weekend, which as of recording this, what was the actual date last weekend? The 21st? 19th, there we go. That'll do. Yeah, so that weekend, Scotland was the kickoff of the new season with Tempest. It's a 2-day, 5-game event. This was also marked my year anniversary of playing in events, because it was Tempest last year was my first event I went to.
Wow, is that all?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That was good. It was a great event. We had 44 people, I think, when all was said and done. So the scoring system, just to cover it, so you know what it was a 20-0 system. You get 14 points for a win, 1 point for retaining 1,000 points of your army, another point for destroying 1,000 points of your opponent's army, 2 points for getting your hidden agendas, and 2 points for denying your hidden agendas. So there's a lot to play for at any point in the game, because you're always able to make a difference to the score. It's not just, I've lost, I've got 0 points. It's, I'm losing, but I can maybe claw 2, 3, 4 points out and still affect what's going forward. Big fan of the way it's scored. And I always think it keeps everybody motivated to do something in the games.
Yeah.
So, go quickly.
It's good because sometimes I think when you get to the end of turn 3, it's pretty obvious who's going to end up winning.
Yes, yeah. But if you go, right, okay, I've lost this game, but if I do this, I can get 2 points.
Yeah.
It just means you're still in it. There's nothing worse, because I've done it, and I've played it through the hand. I'm doing it as well. You get a bit dejected at a certain point in the game. You can see it in their eyes. They can see it in yours. They know it's kind of done. And it becomes a bit less fun for everybody at that point. But knowing that there's still something to play for, to me, makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll quickly run through the event in the game. So game 1 was against a good friend Mark. We had a grudge match set up because we hadn't managed to play at an event yet. So we thought, right, new year, we'll play against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And he took his Bone Splitters.
Nice.
With Bone Grins, which I hadn't played against before. And it caught me by surprise.
What does Bone Grins do?
So, to set up what happened, we're going into turn 2. I've got... Oh, my list I should probably go through, actually. It's...
It was ridiculous.
It's not that good a list, as you will see.
I know it's not. It's ridiculously bad.
It's a Stardrake, 15 Liberators, a Castellant, a Relictor, a Selson on Dracoth, and 8 Decimators.
Told you it was ridiculous.
Oh, it is. It is pure ridiculousness. It's fun. It just has a lot of weaknesses. But this was the list I painted up primarily for the narrative event that we'll both be at in February.
Yeah.
So, and I've always wanted to do a full narrative extremist list, and this was a great excuse to do it. But it meant I was also going to have to take it to this competitive event.
And for the record as well, we will be filming a battle report against Archeon and my 9 Varangard.
Yeah, which is just going to be stupid. it's going to be a pretty quick battle report, I think, potentially, with not much left fairly early on. But yeah, so played against the Bone Grins, Bone Splitters, game 1. So I set everything up. I got some screens out with my Liberators. My Dracoth were set up behind, so he couldn't surprise me with his Rogue Idol, which was definitely a worry.
Rogue Idols are so good now that they get all the buffs.
Well, in this game, he then turns around and goes, "Oh, Bone Grins mean you have to charge me if you're within 12 inches." I'm like, oh, okay then. Promptly pulls my screens away, my Dracoth's out of position. So I'm like, oh no, this is going to go so horribly wrong for me. And it was entirely my fault. He offered me the list to read at the start of the game, and I was like, oh no, it's in your list. But I never checked the allegiance ability. I never checked that. So that's entirely on me. This isn't a gotcha or anything like that. This was entirely my fault. So then, yeah, he pulls me out of position, and yeah, okay, I kill what I've charged, but
then you're within 12 of something else.
Yeah, my ass is in the wind. My Dracoth are completely exposed at this point, and he's got a Rogue Idol. So I'm not feeling confident at this point. And then he wins priority. So I'm just like, oh no. So he buffs up his Rogue Idol, gives it the Breath of Garcamarca. It flies over and proceeds to perform what I can only describe as a Rogue Idol enema into the rear of my Desolator unit. Now we're both excited for this, because this is the big smashy combat we want to happen. I'd rather I charged him, but we still want the combat to happen. And there's a couple of things to note before going to it, and one of them is the Bone Grin's command ability makes 6s 2 hits.
Oof.
But it can stack. So each 6 from the Rogue Idol was 4 hits.
How?
Because it's not worded not to stack.
The other one, if the Rogue Idol hits with a 6, does that count as 2 hits? And
yes.
Then, oh.
But each 6 counts as 4 hits because he spent multiple command points to get multiple bonus attacks.
Oh, nah, that.
But the big boss one that used to do it, or maybe still does do it, his is limited to only 1 use per unit.
Yeah.
The Bone Grins one isn't. So that's maybe been missed, maybe should be checked out. But after all said and done, that Rogue Idol did 2 damage to my Desolators.
Wow.
I rolled ridiculously good saves, and then I attacked back with maybe 3 of them I got in range, because the way he charged me, and did 2 damage back to him. It was the most disappointing fight we could have happened from that. Like, we're both like, whatever touches these 2, it's going to just destroy everything. And yeah.
The last time I used my Rogue Idol Mind, I whiffed so bad with its rolls.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more reliable now, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
You can buff it.
Because you can give it +1 to hit and stuff like that, it is so much better than it was.
Yeah.
Because you get the allegiance abilities and stuff as well.
Well, it was on a 4-up, 5-up, 6-up, because it gets the Bone Splitter 6-up as well, because he's pure Bone Splitters.
Yeah.
So it was shrugging off a lot of damage. Then after that, I showed just how much stupid amounts of mortal wounds shooting my Desolators can do, and did take it off. I did about multiple times in that game. I did 20 mortal wounds from shooting.
Have they got the breath where if you're closer?
No, there's only 1 breath weapon now. You see.
Ah, right.
They've changed it all with the last book, so it's on a 4-up. You do D3 mortal wounds within 12.
Yeah, because Lucy used to run the old ones where if you're within 3 inches, you got like. Something ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
they're
I was
really
just
scary.
like, yeah, no. But she hasn't played the Stormcast in so long.
Yeah, no. With the second book, they changed all that.
You mean the fourth book?
Yeah. Well, we don't count the Extremes book, surely. It wasn't a real book because you couldn't make an army with it. It was for battling.
Well, third book then.
Yeah. But yeah, so I ended up winning that game.
Yeah.
My Star Drake killed a total of 4 Oryx that game.
Yes.
Star Drakes don't kill anything. Like, I knew this going into the games, but when you actually put one on the table, and people are still scared of it. 'Cause it's a terrifying, imposing model.
Even with the tail swipe?
Yeah.
That's bad.
It didn't roll well for it. But it's... Yeah. It's not there. It's there to buff the Desolators because its bow. When it shoots with its bow, Desolators get +1 to hit. So hitting mortal wounds on 3s, exploding on 6s, get the prayers off. Same with the axe attacks, hitting on 3s as well. I mean, that's the thing with this list. It's an 800-point unit that isn't that effective. That's also got another like 600 points of buffs on it to make it work. It does one thing okay, but it does look good doing it. So that was the main thing.
Yeah.
So then game 2 was against a guy from Aberdeen, Liam Watt, who is a fantastic player. Very high in the rankings, usually all the time. I don't know where he is now, because obviously it's the first game. Playing Bone Reapers. This was Catacross and Arcan list. And with 60 Mortec Guard and 2 Crawlers.
And is this with Petrifex Elite as well?
Yes. All the Bone Reapers there were Petrifex.
So how does this list work then? Because obviously Catacross isn't Petrifex.
Yeah, well, it just means he doesn't get the +1 to save unless he spends his own command point to give it to himself.
Right, but then doesn't his buffs only affect this allegiance that he belongs to?
The way it's worded, if I remember right, one of them does. I think the only way to get the save is to be Mortis Praetorians, but the +1 to hit is all Bone Reapers can get it.
Right.
Because, let me just check. Cut across. Where's the command ability? Yeah, +1 to hit rolls made by friendly Bone Reapers units wholly within 18, but add 1 to saves as well for Mortis Praetorian units. So you still get the +1 to hit. So all you're losing out is a +1 to save, and Petrifax gets that anyway. So you're losing nothing by taking him in Petrifax, basically.
Fair enough.
Because that's balanced. So I'm like, oh, okay, I've done the biggest mistake I could. I've won my first game. This is position I've put myself in a number of times.
Oh, so you won the first one?
Yeah. So I won that game, major victory, 19-1. And I'm like, right, I've just completely ruined my weekend. I've flown far too close to the sun. When I thought I'd got Bone Reapers, I was like, right, okay, I deserve this. So we set up, and we're playing Border War, and it gives me turn 1. So, okay, right. Drop down all my Desolators, shoot Arcan off in turn 1. Just mortal wounded him into the ground. After I'd done it, Liam didn't realize he had no reason to deploy Arcan that far forward.
Right.
So he had no magic for the rest of the game. Didn't really matter much. they still won without it. Just trying to grind through them. Just that +1 save, the reroll the saves. This is just so hard to kill the Mortec Guard.
And of course, no battle shocks as well.
Exactly. So you can take out 10 of them and they don't care.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to deal with. I think if they didn't have battle shock immunity, they'd be a lot less scary.
Absolutely.
Because they can't spend the command point to ignore battle shock. So they'd probably have a character that would ignore battle shock, but you'd have to take him and things like that. There'd be ways around it, I'm sure, but it would be something nice.
Yeah.
We're playing in the Realm of Light, and I made a massive mistake because I went for a charge turn 1, spent my command point to re-roll it, and if I thought and kept it, when he charged me, I could have spent that command point and gone first because the Realm of Light command ability. Right. So that was another mistake that I made. Not a lot of events have used Realms recently, so it takes a bit of getting used to again. And I have no magic in my list, so I wasn't really paying that much attention to the Realms. But after all is said and done, I killed Catacross in turn 5 with the Stardrake.
Wow.
He only had 1 wound left at the time, but, Stardrake still did it. And we killed 1,500 points of each other's armies.
So you had the Stardrake left?
I had the Stardrake and... Yes, that was it. Yeah, just the Stardrake.
Okay.
Because I was fighting one of the catapult crawler for like 3 turns and doing nothing to it with the Stardrake. It just wasn't doing it. The crawlers in that game actually didn't do that much. They weren't rolling very well. I was terrified of them because 1 failed save was a dead Desolator from the 5 damage, but I ended up not being much. But yeah, I was the first person to kill Catacross, so I'll take that. I'll take that as a moral victory. But yeah, a major loss. And then game 3 was against Fire Slayers. And yeah, I just got pinned into my deployment zone and couldn't fight my way out.
But I thought you said the move quite slow, though.
Yeah, but they can deep strike.
Oh.
So you just take a Rune Smiter and they just pop up. It's also the arcane power missions, so you need to put your heroes on the missions. And I was on the objectives. I was also at this point had a few beers, and it's the only game I don't have notes for.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So end of day 1 and 2. So I'm like, that's all right. Like, you know, I think it's like 3 great games. I've played Liam a number of times. That's probably my favorite game against him. I really managed to get 4 points out of that game, so I was happy with that. Fire Slayers, I think, was a 20-0, just a complete shutdown. It's a thing with the army. The Desolators are such a big footprint. They usually get charged by multiple units, and they just can't fight their way out quick enough.
Yeah.
Which is a good precursor to... So, well, you know, Saturday night, go out, get some food, get some beers, and get prepped for the next day, where I'm fighting Lord Stormcast, the only other Stormcast player at the event, because nobody plays Stormcast anymore.
Right. So how did this one go?
Not good. Okay. And the thing is, the mission's Scorched Earth, so we both put everything we have in the sky that can kill anything, minimal things and objectives, and he's got one less drop than me because he takes Cleansing Phalanx.
Oof.
And just drops his entire phalanx onto my 2 objectives.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do. I could have put my Desolators on the table, but he still would have been able to outnumber the objectives and take them off me.
Yeah.
The only thing that would have done is it meant that they'd be further up the table, because what happened was, because he hit me there, by the time the space I needed to get my Desolators on the table, they were quite far back into my deployment zone, so they just couldn't fight across the table quick enough, fighting through 4 units at a time. Because as I was saying, he was going to charge me in turn 2. I'm like, no, just, you know. So he wants a bit of advice. I'm like, no, just step back. I have to come to you regardless now. Just make me fight for it. I mean, that's what he did. You know, we fought through it, and yeah, it was Scorched Earth. If you can get the 2 points early and you can stop them getting you, it's just an easy win.
Yeah.
Because he took the turn, and then I obviously dropped down, tried to fight him off. He still held them come the priority roll, then he just burned them when he won the priority. And that was kind of it at that point. So yeah, that didn't go well. And then I played Beasts of Chaos for game 5. Lots of Warherd. It was a lot of fun. Total commitment, so neither of us could do any shenanigans, because he did have the great fear where he could bring the Warherd on from the side and stuff like that, so we were both at a disadvantage. And I knew if I could hit his like Bulgors and stuff first, then I would be in a good position. If I could, he took the turn. I was like, right, okay. He set up his guys with 6 of the guys with the shield in the front, and then 6 of the guys with the big axes behind them.
Okay.
So I'm like, right, okay, charge in there. Put a Star Drake in to deal with this big Ungor unit that was going to threaten one of my objectives, and then put my Desolators into there. So I'm like, cool, kill off a good chunk of the unit, take the return hit. But I'm still in good shape. I'm like, right, if I win this priority, I can push through and do a lot of damage. I do not win the priority. So I then get hit again by the Warherd, and it doesn't go well. I had like 3 Desolators left.
Oof.
So I'm like, right, okay. I think tactically here. I'll draw back. His objective's exposed. My Star Drake's free. Let's try and swing my Star Drake round. So again, everything was set up for the turn 3 priority. If I got it, I could steal his back objective. And then force him to have to walk across the table to get to my objectives. I don't get that priority either. And at that point, it was done. He was able then to stay on his objectives and castle that up, and he eventually got enough summoning points to bring on Ungors onto my lightly defended objectives.
Yeah.
He actually brought on some Skyfires. He had a unit of 6 Skyfires in that game as well, and they just didn't do a thing. I don't really rate Skyfires. Enlightened, yes. Skyfires, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, 1 win, 4 losses. My worst result at a tournament.
But did you come in bottom place?
No. I wasn't bottom place. I haven't got the spoon yet.
Well, I'm disappointed in you.
I got 1 win. You got a spoon with 1 win. But what I did get was the best sports award.
Nice.
Which was a huge bonus. It was genuinely very touched to receive it. It's good to know that people are having fun playing against me, as it's something I always like to bear in mind when I'm building a list to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was nice. And actually, it's a Northern Invasion podcast who are doing these awards. They're sponsoring sports events up here and, well, the Warlord's Revenge event.
Which I'm attending.
Yes, we'll have one as well. It's a trophy with their logo on it. Yeah. And I had just said to Mr. West at lunchtime on the Sunday, that's a really nice sports trophy you've got made there. And then lo and behold, I'm the guy that gets to take it home with him. So that was nice.
Yeah. I
didn't place to, so there was no favoritism there.
Fair enough. Now, you said there was an interesting Sylvaneth list there.
There is a gentleman who you know.
Yeah.
Mr. Rich Hudspeth run Triple Durthu.
Who was actually running Warlord's Revenge, by the way.
Yes. Running Triple Durthu, who took home Best Order.
Triple Durthu is just horrendous. It's like good. You need.
It's not only Triple Durthu; it's Triple Durthu and Alariel.
The problem with that is if he's suffered 2 or less wounds, it's a flat 6 damage on every attack.
Yeah, and against 3 of them, what do you focus one down?
Which one? Exactly.
Yeah. Do you kind of chip them all down so they're all doing D6 damage instead of the 6? It's a tough one, and then you think, he's only got 4 or 5 man squads for his bodies, but Alariel can summon on 20 Dryads.
Yep.
And you've got your Branch Wraith, whichever one it is, it summons on Dryad, so you're still able to bring in the bodies.
Yep.
So no, it was a good list. I was delighted to see it do well, because when he did send me the list prior to the event, and I just thought it was the best thing I'd ever seen. Like, it's just absolutely mad. And
he sent it to me as well, and I was just like, that's mental. Yeah. I actually just sent him my list the other night for Warlord's Revenge, and he actually replied to us. He was like, Harry, that is absolutely brutal, but I love it. And I was like, Rich, I'm going to move these 10 models around the table and see, it's easy to play. It's the same unit 3 times plus a character.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm taking. I mean, don't get me wrong. Varangard can hit well. The problem is
they can.
The problem is the 15 wounds between the squad of 3. That is not a lot.
It's really not. And they have a mortal wound save, Varangard.
Yes, a 5 up, I think, because of the shield.
Right, yeah. So at least you got lower protection from mortal wounds as well. But yeah, 15 wounds times 3.
Plus 20.
It's not a lot.
Plus 20 for Archeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fun, though. That's the thing. It's a fun one.
Absolutely.
Which is the same thing with mine. I still did a lot of damage in every game, but the Desolators are expensive, and they still need all the buffs. Like, it just shows where Stormcast are, and it's not good.
Yeah, but if you compare a Varangard, which is 100 points per model, to a Desolator, which is 100 points per model.
Yep, it is, yeah.
Desolators are better.
Only when they're taking in big units. Otherwise, they've 3 attacks hit on 4s.
True.
You need the big unit to get the extra bonus attacks, to get them up to 5 attacks a model.
And I suppose if you go Varangard, if Archeon's simply on the field, you get +1 to hit.
Yeah. But I can shoot.
Yeah.
So I think they're probably fairly okay with each other.
It's going to be an interesting matchup when we film that battle report.
I think it'll be fun. It's not going to be the most competitive matchup, but it's at a narrative event, so it shouldn't.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Like this list was intended as a narrative list. I had to paint it up. I also got a painting nomination as well, which was excellent.
Hey.
I was very happy with that. So yeah, like it's not a competitive list. It was never intended to be.
Yeah.
It was just a bit of fun, and it was fun. I did enjoy it. So yeah,
good.
We'll see how it does at the narrative event, and then we'll see what I take to my next competitive event in March.
Nice.
Which I need to get my display board built for as well. So yeah.
So In addition to, obviously, Warlords of Revenge coming up very soon, and, of course, the event that you attended, it was CanCon this weekend as well.
It was indeed. The largest Age of Sigmar tournament in the world.
Bigger than the LVO.
It is. 223 people attended at this time.
It doesn't compare to, like, the 1,000+ people that the LVO has as 40k, but...
No.
Like, that's still a lot.
Yeah, it's still a huge amount of people in a tin shed in Australia. And yeah, well, there was 2 Scottish people made the trip over. They left Tempest and got on the plane and flew over. Who I think Sean went 3-3, and I'm not sure how Mr. Stu West did. I'm sure they'll speak about it on the Northern Invasion podcast.
Yeah.
Stu was running his patented triple Mortarch list. All 3 original Mortarchs.
Nice.
So it's a good fun list, and Sean took the ogres. So yeah, they seem to have a great time. It seems to be a really fun event. It's something I would love to go to, but Australia is just a bit far.
Yeah, it's massively far. Plus, with everything going on over there with the fires, of course, at the moment, everything's kind of up in the air. Hopefully, everything gets sorted. I mean, I know they've had a little bit of reprieve with the rain and stuff recently, but like the news has just been so bad about everything that's gone on.
It has. Yeah, it is horrendous.
You can't even imagine how scary it would be for them. So, of course, hopefully, things ease off for them, and Australia can hopefully recover from that. Yeah.
Definitely.
But as far as results go, do you know any results? Or
I have the top 3.
Okay.
I don't have the players' names, unfortunately. I could dig them out. Actually, it's probably a bit nicer.
So what have we got in the top 3 then?
So in 3rd place, we have Fire Slayers.
Nice.
I will bring up the list. I have the list. They were posted on Twitter. So Fire Slayers was Hermdar, which is no great surprise. It does tend to be the go-to for the Slayers. From Heish, they have a Rune Master for the General, with the Water and Dominant trait, Prayer of Ash, and the Aether Quartz Brooch. Then a Rune Father with the Tyrant Slayer artifact, which is the one that gives you the -1 to wound bubble. Then a Rune Smiter with Ember Storm, and a Battlesmith with the Nulcidian icon. Then 3 units of 5 Auric Hearthguard for the battle line. And then 20 Hearthguard with broad axes, 20 with pole axes, Lords of the Lodge Battalion, and Forge Brethren Battalion. And the Runic Firewall, sitting in 1980 points.
So probably getting a triumph as well.
Potentially, and you're starting with 2 command points, a 3rd when you get your turn.
And you've got the Brood. How many drops is that altogether then?
That would be 3 drops.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a nice list. Clearly, I mean, to come 3 out of 220 odd people, it's definitely a good place to be in, and it's nice to see it is Lords of the Lodge. It is obviously the double Hearthguard Berserker, but it's nice to see the Auric Hearthguard out as well, because I love those models.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then in 2nd place we have Ossiarch Bone Reapers with Petrifex Elite, surprisingly enough. But so we have a Liege Kavalos as the General. We have Nagash. We have 5 Death Riders, 5 Death Riders, 15 Death Riders, the Bone Tithe Shrieker, and the Emerald Lifeswarm. It's worth mentioning that the reason Emerald Lifeswarm is in this list and in other lists is that the event took place in the Realm of Light, so the Emerald Lifeswarm spell was empowered. Realm of Life.
Right.
So the spell was empowered, so it was always healing the full amount. So that's why you do see it pop up more and more in the CanCon lists.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it's great to see a Bone Reapers list that is all the cavalry. Yeah, it's got Nagash as well, but it's not just your 60 Mortag Guard.
No.
I think that's a really good list.
Was that Petrifex Elite, or did they run Staliarch
for
that?
Still Petrifex Elite. Petrifex Elite is still better. It's an unfortunate thing, but there's literally very little reason to look at anything that isn't Petrifex Elite.
Yeah.
In that book, just because either you're giving yourself +1 save and +1 rend, or by not taking it, your opponent's effectively getting +1 save and +1 rend.
Yeah, true.
So, but no, I was surprised because when I saw the Reapers were second, I was like, oh, it's just going to be the usual list. saw that and was like, oh no, that's a great list. Like, I would love to run that list because the cavalry models are great.
Yeah. And they're surprisingly hard to get rid of.
Yeah.
So with +1 save...
Mm-hmm. +1 rend on their swords as well from the command ability.
Yeah.
You're maybe going to struggle for discipline points, though. Because you're only going to get 3 plus whatever you get. He also hasn't taken the battalion.
No, the battalion's, I think it's like 180 points.
Yeah, you get discipline point a turn, though, from them, which is nice.
Yeah.
But he also doesn't need the extra artifacts. He's only got one character that can take an artifact, so yeah, it's probably not really worth it in this list. Clearly wasn't, because he came second. And then in first place, Change Host.
New one.
Yes, new one, yes. So we had a Lord... I don't know what all of the Tzeentch stuff does in terms of abilities, but we had a Lord of Change, a Fate Master, a Gaunt Summoner, Blue Scribes, the Fate Caster, Herald of Tzeentch, a Changeling, then 10 Pinks, 2 units of 3 Flamers, 2 units of 10 Brims, and the Change Host Battalion, and then Emerald Life Swarm, Aether Void Pendulum, and the Darkfire Demon Rift spell. Actually, funny story about that Dark... Well, depending on which side of the story you're on, the Darkfire Demon Rift spell at Tempest. It was being used in a matchup, Tzeentch versus Nurgle.
Okay.
And over 3 turns, the spell did 200 mortal wounds.
Wow. How?
Because was a D3, but you get +1 for every wizard within a certain radius. And Tzeentch are all wizards, and the Nurgle list also had some wizards in it. And so, yeah, it was just D3 plus a stupidly high number to every unit, and it was just bonkers.
Wow.
Which is, again, why you're seeing the Demon Rift turn up a lot in Tzeentch lists, and at 50 points, it must be an auto-include for them with the amount of wizards they have.
Yeah, definitely.
It is going to hurt you as well if it's close enough to do all that, but yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Absolutely.
Because if you come across a Tzeentch as a Change Host army, you can just fight it into their army, and then they're going to have to deal with it.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the top 3 from cancon.
Okay, and you mentioned the Norwegian.
Yes, I might have to come back to them as the page has refreshed and I have lost it.
But the Norwegian Masters was also this weekend.
Yes, I'm trying to bring up the list right now. There we go. Norwegian Age of Sigmar Masters. So, and from this, it looks like we have in 3rd place Legion of Blood.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. What's the list?
Blood Knights.
Neferata, Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, Necromancer, 40 Warriors, 5 Wolves, 10 Blood Knights, a Corpse Cart, Balewind Vortex, extra command point, and the Penumbral Engine. Then 2nd place was Fire Slayers.
Wow.
Yeah, big resurgence for these guys, it seems. Runefather and Magma Droth, Rune Master, Battlesmith, Rune Smiter, 20 Hearthguard Broadaxes, 20 Hearthguard Poleaxes, 10 Volkites, Lord of the Lodge, and the Runic Firewall, and an extra command point. And he did make the note here that the ones in the Lords of the Lodge battalion are the Poleaxes, which I think makes sense. That's how I would probably do it. Because you want the 6s, so the ability to fight twice with them, just to generate those mortal wounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's the way to do it. And then in 1st place, it's Flesh Eater Cords.
Interesting. That's the only mention of Flesh Eaters in all of the events that we've covered.
There was none at Tempest.
That's very interesting because even, 4 or 5 months ago?
Oh, they were everywhere.
Yeah. So it's nice.
No, it's been a very steep drop-off for them.
It's nice that the meta has changed like that, but I think since the Grizzle Gore artifact or command trait got FAQ, that's what stopped people running that.
Yeah.
Because
it's a shame because it works. It's much more narrative that only happens when they charge, but it means they're really vulnerable to being charged. And as an army, the Flesh Eater Cords aren't that resilient.
No. The fact
they don't have great armor saves. You've only got your 6-up shrug unless you get a spell off. It's
the fact that you were going first when your opponent charged you was massive.
Yeah, really meant and you could go twice.
Yeah.
Because of your command points, you're basically never losing that one, which is also not a great experience.
No.
So it's one of those things.
I filmed a battle report with Lucy using that, and she used it against Luke, who he does go to a fair amount of events, but he's not a massively competitive player, but he's a very competent player. And for Lucy to pull that on him, and I was filming it, and I was just like, Luke, I want to cry for you. He actually charged in, funnily enough, with his zombie Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon with an Ethereal Amulet and Mystic Shield on.
Yeah, so you just fish for the 6s.
Yeah. No, what was it? No, because she was running the Zombie Dragon as the general, not the Terrorgeist. And I think out of 5 or 6 saves, he rolled 2 2s.
Oh.
And it was on the jaws.
Mm-hmm. So D6 damage.
D6 damage, and she rolled a 12.
Oh.
It's them bloody dice that you gave her.
I'm getting a lot of blame for those dice.
Do you know how many people comment on the battle reports and say Lucy's dice rolling is sick?
I really should have used those dice, I think, now. I ordered them as a spare in case my other dice didn't turn up, and I never used them. It seems like they're probably better than all the dice I've owned.
Do you know what I'm going to do, right? When we film this battle report, right, I'm going to use them dice.
But you might taint Lucy's luck with the dice. That's not very fair.
I suppose. So, that almost brings us to the end of the show.
There is the results from the Warhammer GT today as well.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so again, I don't have much from this. I just seen what I can get on Twitter. But in 3rd place, we have Disciples of Tzeentch.
Nice.
And in 2nd place, we have Disciples of Tzeentch. And in 1st place, we have Disciples of Tzeentch. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure they're probably all changes.
And that means that when the FAQ comes out, something's going to happen.
Well, there was supposedly the FAQ was going to come out on Monday, but there was one of the writers at the event to kind of speak to everybody and get their feedback. So hopefully they might delay it a little bit and maybe take a closer look at some of these things, because Games Workshop can't look at that and be happy.
No.
Especially when they had a game on stream that I think the Bone Reapers versus Chainsaws, the Bone Reapers player conceded in turn 2.
Wow.
Because he was done. There's nothing he could do at that point to take anything back.
No. Yeah, but when the games become like that, you've got to look at the army and go, right, what is wrong?
Yeah, there's an issue somewhere, and how do we fix it? Not how do we ruin it, just how do we tweak it in some way that it's not such a
auto win.
Yeah, and it's not even that. Like, Chainsaws has taken losses over the weekend, just the amount of them out there. Of course, they're going to, but everyone that seems to have played against it has had a horrible experience.
Yeah,
it's just not fun for your opponent, and I'm not saying that should be something you consider. It's something that I consider, but it's not something that everyone considers when they build a list at all, nor should it be. It's a competitive event. You're there to win. But at the same time, from a GW perspective, is if you have a new guy coming into the scene or a new guy coming in the store and they play against that army, they're pretty quickly just going to not bother with the hobby anymore.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, going to be something the GW really will need to have a think about and a look over and see what they can do to.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get the FAQ till sort of back end of the week.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. They think, right, okay, we need to have bit of a more in-depth look at this. There's clearly more to this than it seems, so let's have a proper fix of it.
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, we can hope. I mean, it's not going to be great for the game if they're going to be stuck with this for a long time.
No, absolutely not. It's like when Skyfires first come out, they were just horrendously good.
Yeah.
And nobody enjoyed playing against them.
No, and that's the thing. And then all it's going to do is hurt the scene.
Yeah.
Because if you have enough people have enough bad games, they just go, you know what, I'm not going to bother coming to the next event. I've got better things to do with my weekend. I've got better ways to spend my money. And that would be a real shame. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think they will fix it. Like, this always happens in the hobby. There's always the boogeyman book. It just so happens that with the quick release schedule and everything else, we seem to have been getting them fairly regularly. And I think this is maybe one of the worst ones. Not in terms of how strong it is, just in terms of how bad it is for your opponent.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that now does bring us to the end of the show. Of course, there is a couple of events happening over the next couple of weeks. I will be attending Warlord's Revenge, so you can expect to see my report on that, and we'll talk about that certainly in the next podcast. I think it's 4 weeks this weekend actually, Grant, until the Age of Sigmar retreat. So I think
that sounds about right.
We might actually put it off the podcast off for a day or two, so we can actually discuss the event as a whole as well.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
So, guys, make sure you are, of course, following us on YouTube to see all the latest previews and reviews, and of course the 8 Army Knockout tournament that me and Lucy are running. I suspect that me and Grant will probably be reviewing the Sylvaneth Seraphon Battle Tome when that comes out, as well as the Ever Chosen campaign book as well.
Campaign book, yeah. I'd say I'm really interested to see what they do with that. It's an odd thing to release that campaign book, as I said, with 2 relatively new battle tomes in it. It makes me think what's in there that isn't in the battle tomes.
Yeah.
What are we going to get with that? So yeah.
Absolutely. So listen, guys, thank you very, very much indeed for listening. We really, really appreciate it. Go and give Grant a follow on Twitch as well. What's your Twitch handle, Grant?
Well, it's Twitter. I don't do that.
That's the one.
It's AC Tricks, ACEYTRIXX.
Yeah, so go and give Grant a follow over on Twitter. I struggle to Twitter, so follow me on a different platform instead. But of course, we'll speak to you again in a couple of weeks, guys. Thank you very much indeed. And we'll speak to you again very soon.